He started cursing at me. He was yelling at me. He said he was going to call the police and have me arrested for destroying his business. I'm 80 years old. I have to admit, Your Honor, watch my language. He scared the something out of me.
This is the plaintiff, Charles Sterbakoff. He says he was hired to troubleshoot and fix the defendant's business computer problems, and the guy is stiffing him. He's been in business since 1964, and he's not about to be ripped off by the likes of the defendant, and is suing for the $2,040 he's owed. This is the defendant, Darren Kiley. He says his computer froze at his dry cleaning business, and his customer, the plaintiff, offered to take a look at it. Turns out the guy wasted his time. He's as incompetent as they come, fixed nothing, and he owes him nothing. He's accused of not computing.
All parties, please hit your right hands.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Sterbakoff, you are suing Mr. Kiley for $2,040 that you say he owes you in computer tech services. How did you, Mr. Sterbakoff, how is it that you know Mr. Kiley and the dry cleaning services?
Last year, he had a problem with his computer. We came in and fixed it for him, and everything went smoothly then.
When did Mr. Kiley call you that became the subject of this stuff? This is in October and November of 2020, correct?
Yes. Well, can I give you a little background of his computer setup, which will help explain this? He has two computers so that they can operate on two customers at the same time. The computer that has the tag printer attached to it keeps all the data. It's kind of like a server. So if the other computer needs any information, it gets it from that computer. Okay. All of the equipment is obsolete. I recommend that he get a backup and investigate upgrading to a Windows 10 computer. He never did that. Now, what he called and told me was almost the worst case, that the server computer would not start properly. I went to his establishment that day. It was Saturday. Fortunately, the problem was the motherboard, the hard drive inside it where all the data is kept, was functioning properly. So I took the hard drive out of that computer, plugged it into my equipment, and retrieved all the data. So that's where we stood over the weekend. I worked on it Saturday and Sunday. I managed to get him a replacement computer that
Okay,
did his
so
business.
let's hold on. Let me stop you 1 second. So at that point, what you ended up charging him and he paid was you paid the $360 that he had asked for at that point, right, Mr. Kiley?
No, he has never paid me anything. No.
He's never paid you anything. Okay, so at that point, you say he owed you $360, and then you sold him a refurbished Dell desktop computer for how much?
Right.
$225?
$225.
All right, so then did that solve the problem?
No. What happened after that, I was able to get the data from the old computer, but the program that controlled it, that needed to be installed. We needed the XP program to run. You can't just go on the internet and buy it. It was a proprietary package of one company. So we called them up, and they hadn't been working on XP for some time either, but we installed the files and it was not working. When we tried it on Monday, we found out that we needed drivers for the printers. So the next day we went in and we finally got it so that one computer could connect to its own printer, but not to the other one. Went back on Wednesday and an error message came up. And this error message said, well, it said that there was a problem.
It said
with
spooling.
the spooler. Now, when I see an error in
Did
the
you ever
spooler-
fix his system or did you not fix his system?
Well, this was 6 o'clock. I told them it was a very simple problem because the problem was obviously within the XP software. There were always like 1,000 bugs and they were all taken care of. All I did was go home at 6:30, get the right patch. I'd be back the next morning, put it in, and we're back in business. And at that point, Mr. Kiley went ballistic. He started cursing at me. He was yelling at me. He said he was going to call the police and have me arrested for destroying his business. I'm 80 years old. I have to admit, Your Honor, watch my language. He scared the something out of me, and I left. That night at home, I went on the internet. Sure enough, within 5 minutes, I had the patch, and he did not.
And then, so throughout this time, did you ever alert him to how much money was racking up? Because you're charging by the hour, and it's taking you a really long time to figure things out.
He knew my,
and
he knew,
you know,
he knew my fee. He
okay.
knew my fee.
Mr. Kiley, let me ask you a question. He did retrieve your hard drive, and he did install the software, however long it took him to do so. And you have paid, and he did give you a refurbished Dell, and you have paid him a total of what?
Zero.
Zero.
That
So
paid him yet,
explain to
Judge.
me your defense.
Mr. Sterbakoff did come on the 31st, which was Halloween, on a Saturday morning. And the day he came, he brought it home. He said, let me look at it. Let me evaluate it. Did call me and say to me, I think I can solve your problem very inexpensively.
What was the problem? You have two computers there and one of them wasn't working, or what?
Right. Which was is considered the master. The master was not working. So he said, I
How
can
old
solve
is
your
that
problem.
computer?
I bought it and it was already there. So it's anywhere from 5 to 8 years old.
When you saw that hours and hours are racking up, did you ever stop him and say, hey, listen, you know, I'm throwing good money after bad here?
Mr. Sterbakoff told me that the job should take an hour to 2 hours to do everything and to download the new software as well. And he was going to be charging me about $75 an hour. So I'm expecting $200, $300 bill. And Mr. Sterbakoff, to be honest, has been in the business a very, very long time. And I hate to say it, but technology has passed him by, Judge.
Okay, and why do you say that?
The simple first step of connecting the XP system in my dry cleaner, when he brought it from his home, he did not know how to do it. And I said, let's call the software company. Within 5-8 minutes, they told him what to do. And he said, oh, I forgot all about that. I haven't dealt with an XP in several years. Okay, I'll do that. Now it's time to download software. And Mr. Sterbakoff was talking to the software company, not only the software company, but the man who created the program, okay? And he spoke to him, and Mr. Sterbakoff could not understand him because of his accent and asked him to email him every bit of directions that he had. Judge, this was my week from Saturday until Wednesday, finally.
Mr. Kiley, why did you pay him zero? I understand why you didn't pay him $2,000. You don't feel that that's a fair amount. So I get that, but you've paid him zero. So you're not exactly on the moral high ground.
Well, Judge,
You
he
understand
never
me?
really accomplished. He never really accomplished what he said.
Well,
he
you
did.
have
He
a
never
computer
installed my
that's
software.
his. Excuse me, you
Okay.
have a computer that's his, right? So when you say he never accomplished anything, that's not true. You have a computer that's his and you haven't paid for it. You also have the software ended up being installed by him into that computer, the software that you use.
No.
But it needed a patch. Do you have any testimony?
did
You
not.
ended up hiring somebody else to get the thing to finally work at the end. And that somebody else who you hired, do you have an affidavit from that person about what they did for the $120 you paid them?
I have an invoice that's supplied as well.
PC will not power on. Open chassis and remove dust. And then this first invoice for $80. All right. Do you have anything from the actual vendor, the actual software company?
I do. I also turned in 2 receipts from them. They charged me 2 separate hours for $75 each.
Hi, Darren. This is our experience with Charlie, the tech computer guy. In the beginning of November, we got a call from Charlie. We tried to explain to him how to do it and that it should only take about 1 hour to complete the task. First, he needed help setting up the new Windows XP computer, which I found odd because he was a hardware expert. Well, after teaching him how to set up the hardware, he said, "Oh, now I remember, it's been a while." But after a few days with him on the phone and numerous emails, he was still not able to complete the task. We told the owner to find another tech person because it was a very simple task. Okay. Not very flattering to you, Mr. Sturbakoff. Mr. Sturbakoff, if you had told Mr. Kiley it's going to cost you $2,000, do you think Mr. Kiley would have said, "Yeah, have at it"?
I doubt it, but I had no idea at the beginning that it would go that way.
Exactly. And right, I understand. But see, at some point, no, stop. Mr. Sturbakoff, at some point, you have got to tell Mr. Kiley, listen, it's going to take me X. It's not just a carte blanche to end up taking, how many hours are you billing him for here? How many hours is this?
19 and a half.
I don't know what reason it would possibly take 19 hours to get to the bottom of the problem here. It shouldn't take 19 hours. All right, I am going to order Mr. Kiley to pay Mr. Sturbakoff $350 for both the computer and his services. That is my verdict.
Mr. Kiley, let me ask you first. You're going to have to give the plaintiff $350. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that was a fair judgment, to be honest with you. I do have a piece of equipment that I got from Mr. Sturbakoff. He did attempt to do the work, even though, like I mentioned, technology has passed him by. He did his best. He's a good man. If that's what the judge ordered, that's what I'll take care of. Well,
you're being very decent and very kind. Let me ask one other. Do you think it's time you really upgraded your equipment and bought some new computers? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I'm in the process of doing that right now as we speak.
You are? Well, good for you. All right. Mr. Sturbakoff, this wasn't too helpful for you. I know you wanted $2,400. The judge has ordered Mr. Kiley to give you $350. What are you thinking?
The libel that he said about my experience is very upsetting because it is not true. I have a number of XP customers. One, I had 5 XP computers all networked together. I work with XP all the time.
Well, listen, that's good. I'm glad you have good other customers. Mr. Sturbakoff, we're going to have to wrap it up. I'm sorry. You're only getting $350. I know it didn't work out well for you in this situation, but hopefully in others it will work out. In any event, that'll wrap up this lengthy dispute. Harvey, what are you thinking about this?
Doug, this is an interesting case about when you have add-ons to a deal that you make. In this case, you have computer work where it takes longer perhaps than it should have, and all of a sudden it starts racking up more and more money. The person who does that work needs to make it clear what the terms are in terms of add-on work. And the best thing to do, obviously, is to get approval each time you need to do an add-on. But if you don't do that and you have made no deal in terms of additional expenses, you're going to lose out.
Hey, Judge John, tell us something we don't know about Judge Marilyn. Geez, thanks, Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy, it's your lucky day because I'm not going to tell you one thing you don't know about Judge Marilyn. I'm going to tell you many things.
You better well listen. You're going home with me, not Jimmy, so you better be careful what you say.
All right. Let's see. When I met you, you were driving a 3-pedal car with a manual clutch. So you can drive a manual, a standard transmission.
Correction, I could drive them. I haven't done that in a long time.
I bet you could do it in a heartbeat like that. Your favorite drink is a glass of red wine.
I don't think that's much of a secret if people have seen me take out the recycling during COVID.
Oh, God. You want to put on a disguise.
You put on a disguise when you take out the recycling.
Oh, my God. Okay, let me see. One more.
I think that's enough.
No, one more. I got one more. This is a flattering one.
Okay.
I did see her do a 4-minute plank, and a really good one, a couple weeks ago. So she's keeps after it, and I was impressed, let's just say, because I'm not sure I could do it for 4 minutes. I could do it for a while, but 4 minutes is a long time. So keep that up.
This is the plaintiff, Jeremy Nahum. He says he rented a place to start his custom closet business. And after a few months, the defendant, his landlord, told him things weren't going to work out because he was afraid of there being noise issues. The guy now refuses to return his money, and he's here in the name of justice suing him for the $3,800 he's owed. This is the defendant, John Rosano. He says the plaintiff was the one who wanted to move out because he found a better place to have his workshop. The guy stored his equipment on his property for a few months, and he had every right to keep his rent. He is accused of a closet catastrophe.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that he rented workspace from the defendant for his closet building business and says that the guy kicked him out and now won't return his money. The defendant says the plaintiff broke the lease because he found a better place to rent and he doesn't owe the guy a penny. It's the case of a closet catastrophe.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Mr. Nahum, talk to me.
Yes.
What happened between you and
Okay.
Mr. Rosano?
Well, I was trying to find shop space for my custom closet company. So I put an ad on one of the groups on Facebook that I was looking for space, and he responded to me. I looked at the place. I was like, this is perfect. We came to an arrangement.
What was the place that you came to an arrangement on? A guest house at his home, correct?
Well, it was actually like an oversized 2-car garage on his property.
Oh, not exactly a guest house. All right. So that's what you went to look at. That's what you liked. And then you entered into a little written agreement where it says rent Manorville. Is that where his house is?
Correct, yes.
Garage for $800 a month, and electric will be determined by bill. Rent is month to month. And then you pay $800, and there's a signature, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so in any event, you rent this space, and what happens?
It was, trying to get in. He was like, oh, I got to move stuff out. And then it became, an issue of the noise, which I totally understood, but he had other, properties. He had other buildings. He's like, I'll get you into somewhere.
What do you mean an issue of the noise? What do you mean it became an issue of the noise?
It was on his property, where his house is, and there's, a house that he rents. So me being there at night and the machinery, saws and the noise.
Did you bring some equipment into the 2-car garage?
What that was I found a saw at a great price, and it needed to be moved from New Jersey to the shop. So he has a flatbed trailer.
Where was the shop?
It's New York, on Long Island.
New York. So it needed to be moved from Jersey to New York. And then what happens?
I contracted him to do that. We went out there, we picked it up, I paid him to move it, and we brought it to
How much
the
did you pay him
garage
to
that I
move
was
it?
supposed to. I don't $550, whatever it was, something like that.
550?
Yes.
Okay. So you bring the saw. How big is this saw that we're talking about?
It's big. It's about 10 foot by 40, 50 inches wide, something like that.
So is it before or after he sees the saw that his light bulb turns on and decides this isn't a good idea?
It was after, because at that point it was still, we brought it to where it was okay. We're gonna, it's gonna be here.
So then what happens is he's going to find you a different spot, and does he?
Well, I looked
You're
at a
fine
bunch of
with
spots. They were all, yeah. I'm like, that's fine. He showed me other spots he had, and I was fine with that. I'm like, just get me in somewhere, and time passed, and like I was supposed to have these.
When
two
did
jobs
time
done
pass?
before
Let's talk
Christmas.
about how much time passed. When did you give him that $800?
It was actually, I believe, a few days before November.
Of what year?
I was supposed to move in 20. I was supposed to move in November 1st of 2020.
Are you sure it's 2020?
Well, it might have been 2019. It was 2019, right? Yeah, 2019.
Yes, it was 2019,
Yes.
right, Mr. Rosano?
Yes.
Okay.
So I let it ride, and okay, let's see what where he gets me.
How long did you let it ride?
Till around February of 2020.
Oh, a lot longer than February. I see texts in June. Like we're talking 6,
Yes,
7, 8 months
yes.
later. Mr. Rosano, what is
Yes.
going on? Like, why would you hold on to the guy's money and not be able to provide a place for him, then just give him back his money? I don't get it. What's going on?
Well, I actually did try to get him a spot, and the problem was it was a third party. It was a friend of mine that had other buildings, and I asked him if he would take Jeremy and put him in one of his buildings, and he said absolutely. He said, "But we got to clean it out. We have a lot of work to do," and it took a lot of time. These places are filled with stuff.
So one thing led to another. We couldn't clean out the building fast enough. His name was John.
Wait,
Yeah,
fast enough. It was 8 months before he
Yeah.
first said, all right, this is silly. 8 months is not what I would call warp speed.
We tried to do other avenues to make it quicker, but COVID was involved, and we just couldn't get it done fast enough. There was a lot of things going on with the electricity that he needed to be put in his name and his name only.
So in any event, once he says, hey, man, I got to move on. Can I have my $800 back? What do you say to him?
Well, his machinery was in my buildings, the machine that we brought over from Jersey, and it sat there. We were all, obviously, in this time, we're trying to get a building, and it just didn't materialize. So then he said he found a spot. He says, can you bring the machine over to my new spot, which is about, 7 miles away from where we are. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Drop it off over there. And really nothing was said about the money at that point. And I thought maybe because we had the machine sitting in my barn, he was, realized that, okay, he had it sitting in his barn. Maybe he wants something for it.
Wait. So wait, you were going to charge him storage? Because he left it there all those months?
I wasn't going to charge him storage, but figure something might have been, hey, give me $200 or give me $300. And then I brought it to him. You
for
put
what?
a machine
For not
on
doing what you were supposed to do? I'm sorry, like usually people in your position who haven't done what they said they would do feel a little bit of remorse and say, yeah, you're right, man, it's been 7 months, and hand him back the money. You feel that because you took his saw back to him, that you're even. But that's something you guys had to hash out beforehand. And the only reason that the thing needed moving again, Mr. Rosano, is because you had, did he pay you $550 to move it from New Jersey? Is that accurate?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Okay, so
like
the
that.
only reason he brings it to your 2-car garage on your property is because you've promised him he can have a place there. And then when you say this isn't such a great idea, he's very laid back and says, okay, find me a different place. But the only reason that saw needed moving that second time is because you ended up backing out of the original contract to put it on your home property. And then you took 7 months, and your answer to the complaint actually says I should get storage. Really? Come on. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back to the People's Court. The plaintiff says that he was kicked out of his workspace because the defendant felt he made too much noise. But the defendant says the guy used his space as free storage, and that's why he's keeping his money. Let's listen.
Why should he pay you the $3,000 for like your lost, your lost profits on all those jobs? You are sitting around on your hands for 8 months. So apparently you had some other way to make money. I guess you had the temporary setup in your brother-in-law's garage or something?
What I wound up doing was I asked my cousin, could I use her 2-car garage? Because it was just, I wasn't able to make no money with having my old boss cut the jobs for me. So that's what I did. I set up as minimal as I could.
Are you you're not still in your cousin's garage, are you?
No, because COVID was actually very good to me. Most of the companies, other closet companies, had to shut down. So,
Mr. Rosano, return this guy's $800, okay? And his court costs. You don't get the $3,000. You were running your business. You shouldn't have waited 8 months. You clearly weren't in that big a hurry. I'm not going to order him to pay you to move it because you breached. You're just putting him in the position, when you move it, you're putting him in the position that he was in before you breached the contract, which is I pay once to get it to a place I can rent. So $800 plus court costs plus prejudgment statutory interest for the plaintiff.
So the plaintiff is going to get $800 back plus some court costs. Mr. Rosano, what do you think about this? The judge thinks you just sat on your hands too long in this case.
I did, but we did run around and try to appease him as best we can, and it just didn't materialize.
Well, unfortunately, that's going to cost you that $800. You got to give it back to him, Mr. Nahum. You're not getting the $3,000 you were asking for, but you are going to get your $800 deposit back. You okay with that?
Yeah, it is what it is.
Is the closet business working at the moment right now? Much or
Oh
no?
yeah. I'm in a commercial building now, and we're growing.
All right. Well, good luck to you. Hope it works out. All right, Harvey. What do you think about this case?
Doug, a lot of people sue for lost profits. You actually have to prove lost profits here. The guy didn't. You have to show not only that you could have lost money, you have to show you lost money and how much precisely you lost.
Hey, judges, with your children, who is the disciplinarian? Thanks, Phil.
Whoa, okay, nowhere to hide on this one. As you can guess, America, the disciplinarian is this woman sitting across from me. She sets rules, and the kids have to abide by them, and if they don't, there's consequences. I kind of usually weigh in with her, but not as heavy, and every now and then I'm an advocate for the
You pretty much leave it to me. You pretty much leave. I mean,
Right.
I remember when our first was 4 months old, we were, at the time, we would call it, there was a book written by a Dr. Ferber, so it was called Ferberizing.
Oh, how
where
to get your baby to go to sleep without crying.
Correct.
Right?
So the first time I was letting Christy sleep through the night, she starts to cry, and I get up, and you get up, and I listen to make sure she's safe, and I said, we're not going in there. And you looked at me and said, she's crying. I said, yes, I know, we're not going in there.
Right.
We've got to get her sleeping through the night. And you said, how do you know she's not sick?
Right.
And I looked at you and said, oh my gosh. And I opened the door, and I took her out, and I rocked
she was
her
fine.
for 30 minutes, and then I put her back in bed.
Right.
And then the next night, at 3 a.m, Christy woke up, and I went over to the room, and you said, how do you know she's not sick? I said, get out of here. I'll just handle this myself. And I stood there and listened to her cry, and then the third night, she slept through the night.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say that
Right.
it's all fallen pretty much on me, because you are very, very,
Yes.
they walk all over you.
I suppose at some level maybe they do, but
They do.
that book was that Dr. Ferber book.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe the Dr. Mengele training.
The Dr. Mengele
I mean, it just was so cruel. I
It was
like,
not cruel. The kid needed sleep. She slept through the night.
This is the plaintiff, Ricardo Gardner. He says he purchased a car from the defendant, and the guy sold him the thing with a hole in the engine. That's right, he was grossly taken advantage of, and is suing the cad for the return of his $400. This is the defendant, Hirsch Segal. He says this guy bought the car and then changed his mind about it and wanted his money back. Why would he return the money to this wishy-washy guy? A sale is a sale is a sale. He's accused of unloading a hoopty.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff says the defendant sold him a hunk of junk car, says there was actually a hole in the engine. But the defendant says that he sold the plaintiff a perfectly good car, and the guy got buyer's remorse and demanded his money back. It's the case of I need you like a hole in my engine.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gardner, you're suing Mr. Segal for the return of $400 that you paid for a 2005 Honda Civic. Tell me what happened.
On the day in question, a friend of mine, Desmond, and I saw an ad on the internet that Mr. Segal was selling a 2005 Honda Civic for $400. And in that ad, the ad says that the car only needs a battery and a spare tire. So Desmond and I went and visit Mr. Segal. So he told me to give him the money, and he has a piece of paper here for me to sign. So I gave him the money and signed a piece of papers. Then his son came down from upstairs because I was inside his house now, and his son says to me, the car is going to need a tire and a battery before you can get it moved. So I said, okay, I
Wait,
didn't.
did
I
you,
didn't.
you knew that you, wait, hold on. Are you saying you didn't know that the car needed a tire and a battery before it could be moved?
Yes, I knew. I knew that it needed a battery and a tire. Yes, I did. So
Okay. So
so
why were
I,
you
so
buying
I,
it without checking to see if that's all that was wrong with the car? Why didn't you instead take a look at the thing and see what? Because $400 for the shell of the car is great because that's very, very cheap. I mean, you don't think you're going to have like a really great working car at a 2005 Honda Civic for $400, right? So in your complaint, what you say is, I gave him the money to hold just to make him comfortable. But that's not
yes.
really to make him comfortable. You actually bought the car at that moment. When you give him the money and signed the bill of sale, you bought the car. Now, what happened is you left, you got a battery, and what happens? You come back to the house, and what happens?
I came back with the battery and I came back with the tire. And when I came back with the battery and with the tire, Desmond said, I'm supposed to come over here and take a look. So I said, what is it that I'm looking at? He said, there's a hole in the engine. So when I look underneath the hood, I noticed that there's a hole in the engine about 3 inches in diameter. And about 3 inches in diameter. So this gentleman was inside the house. It was just a son and I that was outside talking. So I said to him, say, sir, this Desmond said that there's a hole in the engine. Would you care to come and take a look at it to see the hole in the engine? He said, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it because you bought the car as is.
Mr. Segal, he reaches out to you. I was wondering what is wrong with the car. 400 seems very low, and if you still have it. You say the year is 2002. It needs a new battery and one of the tires is flat. The transmission is good, but will need some engine maintenance work. The car is being sold as is. It's been sitting in my driveway for some time. No battery and has one flat tire. Will most probably need some initial maintenance work. I mean, you know, he kind of is putting you on notice that he has no idea. It's been sitting in his driveway for a year. I mean, he tells you that. Mr. Segal, tell me about what happened at the house that day and thereafter with the plaintiff.
My son put an ad in the paper, the car is for sale as is.
Where's the car right now?
It's in my driveway outside.
Okay. Now, he comes back with the battery. His friend shows him the hole in the engine. And do you have any discussion with him?
No. He just said, make a look at the car. He saw the car and that's it. And before he gave me the money already, $400, and I have a sale letter and everything is done. And
did he
that's the end
say
of
he
the
didn't
car.
want the car? On that day, did he tell you, look, I don't want this car. There's a problem with the engine? Because he left it there. I know he left it there. So,
Yeah.
all right. Is your son in the room?
Yeah, my son is in the room.
Does he want to testify?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, bring him over. Okay, awesome. Can you switch with your dad a minute?
No, just take
Can you raise your right hand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, what's your name?
My name is Ulysses Segal.
Okay, Mr. Segal, when he comes back after the sale and he comes back with the battery, I guess that's when things went wrong. Tell me about what he says.
They did put the battery in, they started it, and it did start. They actually moved it, back a little bit, and then he went back to get the tire. And then when he came back with the tire, that's when the other gentleman basically then informed him, hey, look, there's a hole in the engine, or come look at this. So, and then they asked me, you want to look at it? I said, no, the car is already yours. It's sold. My dad already sold it to you. When are you going to remove it? And I basically told him, you're taking storage space now, because I had to put my other car into the garage and I couldn't do it. It says that, well, I'm not taking it. Then he became very irate and came back with his vehicle, started screaming in front of the neighborhood. And other neighbors were like, what's going on? He said, I want my money. I want my money. And there's a video which I sent you guys of that interaction. There's a video there.
I want my money. I want my fucking money.
Okay. Mr. Gardner, I'm sure you've heard the expression too good to be true. if you find a 2005 Honda Civic for $400, you're going to have to put some serious money into that 2005 Honda Civic, okay? The idea is make sure you want it before you hand the $400. There is a dispositive legal moment that occurs the minute that you give the $400 and sign the bill of sale. And that legal moment is representative of your ownership of the car, okay? So you own the car and you cannot get your money back. That is what an as-is sale means. It means that you are taking it lock, stock, and barrel, buyer beware. So if it's important to you that the thing runs, then you have a mechanic take a look at it first and see what kind of work has to be done to it and find out how much you're going to have to pour into it. But what you don't want to do is buy it and then change your mind that same day, and then it's too late once you've bought it. You're in the same position as anybody else who's already bought the car. Whether it's a minute later or 2 months later, it doesn't matter. So now we have a little issue, which is that the vehicle is on their property. You are not going to get your money back. Do you want to pick up that vehicle? Because given your behavior on that, going to the man's house, beeping the horn, screaming, for the neighbors to hear at night, I want my money. I'm a little concerned about putting you in contact with that home again. So my first question to you is, understanding that I'm ruling against you because my hands are tied, that's what the law is, do you want to pick up that car?
Yes, ma'am, I'll pick it up.
Okay, so what we're going to do is my staff is going to try to make arrangements with you folks to try to do this in the most pleasant way possible that will not cause anybody to have contact with each other. That is my verdict. Verdict for the defendant. It's an as-is sale.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff has bought a car, and that's the way it's going to stay. Mr. Gardner, let me ask you, have you learned anything about buying a car? Next time, you're going to do differently, right?
Oh, yes, yes, I do. Next time, you won't get my money until I'm 100%. Okay?
Smart move. You've learned something.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Let me talk to the defendant. Mr. Segal, do you feel at all bad about the condition of the car?
I'm happy with the court decision.
I know you're happy with the decision, but do you feel guilty?
No.
No?
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, okay. All right. All right, that's the way it is. Well, anyway, you did prevail, so good for you.
Contracts can be cruel sometimes. And maybe this is one of those examples. For a contract, you have an offer, I want to sell you my car, acceptance, I'll take the car, and consideration or money changing hands. All those things happen before this guy discovers a hole in the engine, right?
Yeah. I mean, it makes no difference whether he had taken the car yet or hadn't taken the car yet.
Driven it a half a block.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter that he didn't haul it off the property.
He buys it when he signs a bill of
gotta,
sale and gives
before
him.
you buy the pony, you gotta look inside its mouth, make sure the teeth are all good, check the hoofs, all that stuff, and he didn't do that. He never even opened the horse.
First of all, I think it's pretty much advertising that there's, something supremely wrong with the car with the price. Okay,
right, right.
They're pretty much telling you
It
we
looks
got
too
no
good to
clue.
be true. It
and,
probably is.
Well, but I mean, yeah, but they basically tell you it hasn't been driven in a year. We have no idea. There's nobody saying, oh, all it needs. The best argument the plaintiff had is that he said the transmission is good, but the engine's going to need work. What kind of a vague? Why would that make him think, oh, this idiot is selling his 2005 Honda to me, and I'm going to be driving all around the country in it, and for $400 for just a tire and a battery.
So Brendan wants to know this. Hey, Harvey. My brother recently came over for dinner. He spilled red wine on my new sofa and he refuses to pay to have it cleaned. I'm trying to keep peace in the family, but I want to sue him. Will I win the case? Well, if he spilled the wine just because he was clumsy, the answer is yes. So yes, you can sue your brother, and yes, you will probably win. And yes, you will probably rupture the relationship. So try to work it out. We'll see you next time.